Hello and welcome to this episode of Business Basics. My name is Lee Iben. I'm the head coach here at Action Coach Campus. We're a business coaching firm. And I'm delighted today to have Nick Westergaard join us. Every day we try to have at least one or two business owners on a podcast to help us out. And today, Nick is a wealth of information. Nick, thank you so much for joining us today.
Lee, I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
You're very welcome. And Nick, so tell us, brand-driven digital. You're also a keynote speaker. You've written a couple of books. Let's jump in on the digital space. Shall we do that? Because I think most business owners could really use some assistance and guidance when it comes to understanding the importance of marketing their brand and how they go about doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the through line through everything that I do, whether that is consulting with businesses, speaking at events, writing books, teaching at the Tippy College of Business here at the University of Iowa, it's all about helping organizations and individuals tell their story. Mm-hmm. And that manifests itself a lot of different ways and really a lot of different kind of pockets of things that I spend my time on. It began very much when my career began as marketing was changing and becoming more digital. And I guess I was looked to as the person who looked like they maybe by the sheer fact of my age at the time that it seemed like something that I could tackle. So did a lot of early e-commerce websites, email marketing, and that really grew my thinking in the digital space. And then what really kind of became the bigger story in all of that is who we are as organizations, because as so many were rushing to all of these digital channels, they were quickly kind of rushing up to that social media microphone without necessarily something to say, without a brand behind that social media microphone. So that kind of, from that grew my other big domain of interest, which has been branding, and kind of the nexus of branding and digital marketing is my company, Brand Driven Digital.
How do you help a client? I always talk with them about USP, how do you help them find their story? How do you help them come to that area where they can identify their uniqueness?
Yeah. Well, uniqueness is at the heart of it. And when we talk about building a brand, the metaphor that we gravitate to is that of a blueprint. That to build something strong, that stands up, that can carry the weight of your organization, you need a good blueprint. So when we work with organizations, either a new brand or an existing brand that we're working on rebranding for, we put together what we call a brand blueprint, which encompasses all of that, from your uniqueness to what is the key aspect of your brand story. Now, a lot of people think that that's the story of, here I am, here's how I planted the flag for my business. And really, it is the story in your life that you are coexisting in with your customers. So what role do you meet them with in what's ultimately their story? A lot of times I talk about really driving home the point that you as an organization, as a brand, aren't the main character in your story, that your customer is, and it's how you're helping them along the way. From that all the way through to articulating their brand touch points, both online and off.
And how would you tell somebody, a business owner who is really the one-stop mom and pop shop, and they are trying to do everything? How would you tell them to stay in touch with their branding and stay on top of their digital marketing? How do they go about doing that? Where do they turn to for education in that space? What's the recommendations that you have?
Well, I think the first is, in thinking about, especially for a small, scrappy organization, a lot of times we're looking for, and I could say this because I'm a small, scrappy organization as well, that a lot of times we, as small, scrappy organizations, are looking for, oh, there's that thing I've got to check off my list. As we're sitting here talking, it's December, so all of us are in our year-end planning mode. And that is, once we make it through the list that we have, we can check it off and we can breathe a big sigh of relief and say, oh, I'm done with that.
Yeah.
For now. I have to pick it up later, but we're done.
Right.
And branding is something that we really aren't done with. We do a lot of that blueprint upfront work, but a lot of times that continues to play a role in what you're doing day in, day out. Somewhere, someone right now is potentially, with your website being up out there, having an interaction with your brand right now as we speak. So you want to make sure that that's, one, the reaction that you're hoping, the interaction that you're hoping that they're having. But beyond that, what do the other phases of that interaction look like? So there's a lot of thinking and unpacking work that needs to be done, and it really never ends. So I know it was where to turn to, but the first thing I'd point out is make sure you understand the problem correctly first, that it's not something that we can be done with.
Well, and that's so true. I mean, and you said it with your numbers. I was just working on my 2021 yesterday. I was in Omaha all day long with a bunch of other guys in a similar field, and we were hammering out 2021 and what does that look like? And similarly with our marketing, and I tell this to business owners all the time, as long as you own your business, you will always be marketing your business. It doesn't go away. I mean, life keeps moving forward, and so too does our business planning, so does our marketing. And, you know, I shot a photograph for a lady, she's a client of mine, of her staff for their website. And I said, you realize as soon as I take this picture, it's going to be out of date. Well, it wasn't a week later, and she lost a staff member. It's like, I told you, right? It's almost like the kiss of death for the staff when you take a staff photo. It's like, it's that whole Sports Illustrated cover thing, right?
Yeah.
But you're exactly right. They've got to stay in touch with their marketing every day. Touch it. How many times do you recommend that they should update their Facebook or update their Instagram or look at their website? What do you think, Nick? I mean,
well, this is a frustrating academic answer or therapist answer.
All right.
The right answer is it depends. And it depends on what kind of business you're in, who your customer is, and back to that brand story thing and where they are in their interaction with you. You know, if you're in the tax planning business, you're obviously really busy right now, but I would be thinking that that's also a calendar business. So the same cyclicality that we have to the tax life of our business, I'd say if you're in that business, you could be updating us fairly frequently and in the months leading up to that. And then in that period when we all hopefully have it checked off our list, it's okay to be a little quieter. Now that's a dramatic example, but if you are a small business, a shop that is, you know, these are certainly strange times, but normal times, dependent on foot traffic, you know, you're going to be updating that social media presence differently in the summer than you are in the winter. Or maybe what you say in those times is different. So it's frustrating, but it depends. That said, I have trouble imagining even the smallest of small businesses that doesn't have at least something or two to say at least once or twice a week.
I agree with that. And you alluded to how it's important for business owners to track their historicals, to look at their numbers. In other words, the seasons of their business, and then make that decision. Okay, so I was low in January. Was that because it was the season and we're typically low in January for our business type? In other words, if I do more aggressive marketing, will that improve my bottom line in January? Or is it just the season and the nature of the business that we're in? But by golly, if my business is in February and my numbers are off the chart, I better be marketing probably every day on a social media platform to be out there, because I know my competitors are going to be out there too. So you got to track those buying trends with your customers and know what they are. So Nick, you've written a couple of books. Tell me about those. I love the one, Get Scrappy. What is that one all about? I've not had the opportunity to read it yet. Full disclosure.
No, well, and the full title is Get Scrappy, Smarter Digital Marketing for Businesses Big and Small.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said the word a lot, and it's a word I like, and we're Midwesterners, and it's a word we I think identify with pretty well. And in thinking about that, it was really in the businesses that I work with, whether they are small businesses, whether they're Fortune 500 companies. I have not probably been as smart as I should be in my own business by focusing on this, uh, people that have dental practices in small towns in the Pacific Northwest. But because of that, I work with a lot of different types of businesses. And one interesting thing is this idea of scrappiness, especially
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to digital marketing. We have more to do than ever before. Speaking of how many times should I update, you
Right.
put that across all the different social networks, the different forms
Uh-huh.
of content you need to make. It gets to be a pretty big list. And the counterpoint to that is few say that they have gotten significantly greater resources as a result of all this stuff that they now
Right.
have to do. And in looking at this, the option, instead of spreading yourself thin, instead of trying to do everything, is to get scrappy. And
Mm-hmm.
certainly this is something that resonates with small businesses. But I was working with the folks at Schwinn, the bicycle company, which
Mm-hmm.
are neighbors to the north in Madison, Wisconsin. And it's easy to think about Schwinn, this great big historic brand, or put an asterisk by that big, as a great big brand because maybe we rode Schwinn's, our parents rode Schwinn's, our kids ride
Right.
Schwinn's, see them in all the stores. But their marketing team is only half a dozen people. And when I was up there working with them and I was talking about this idea of scrappiness, their marketing director said, you know what? That's so true because we could all use a few people and a few dollars more. And I thought, bingo. And
Right.
that's in the introduction of the book. And it's really about first the smart steps you can't skip. So instead of
Right.
trying to do everything, think about what works best, what's right for you, what's right for your customers first.
Right.
From there, we can look at some of those scrappy strategies for doing more with less. And then in the end, talk about simplifying for the long haul. Because the biggest thing, way back to that checklist stuff that we talked about at the beginning, this isn't something that, oh, we're done with that now. I wait till the accountant gets in touch with me next year on when we all have to do this dance again. It's happening constantly, it's happening
Right.
weekly, it's happening daily. So,
Yeah.
how can we simplify this, especially for those small organizations? Because this is something that you're going to have to work with every day.
So true. And if we can take those systems and, like you said, simplify them,
Yeah.
if things are, as humans, if things are difficult, we tend just not to do them. We just
Yeah.
ignore them and hope they go away. But if we can systemize these things and make them easier to do, we're going to get them done. Well, hopefully, anyway, we're more
Absolutely.
likely to get them done. So, all right, Nick, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I know you got to get ready for another a class coming up here soon. Is there a takeaway that you could share with us today, Nick? You've been in business for yourself for a while. What have you found that it's an important nugget that you could share out?
Well, I think this is a useful bit of advice for your brand, for your marketing, for you as an individual, as an entrepreneur, especially at this time of year when, like you said, beyond all of the really fun tax stuff, we're trying to think about some of that big planning about what we want to do differently here in this great big new exciting year ahead. And I'd leave you with two related questions. The first one is, where are you now? You,
Mm-hmm.
your business, your marketing, your brand, where are you now? And the follow up is, where do you want to be? And really
Mm-hmm.
think about the answers to those two questions and think about the gap between those and what kind of journey you want to plot to connect those dots in the year ahead.
Exactly. How fast do you want to get there, and what are the steps that you need to take?
Yep.
Exactly. Nick, thank you for joining us. Don't go away. I'll wrap this up. Our special guest today, of course, Nick Westergaard with Brand Driven Digital. You can find him on LinkedIn. Well, you can find him anywhere, but you can find him on LinkedIn for sure. You can find him online. And if you're a student at the University of Iowa, take one of his classes. It's fascinating. Nick, thank you so much.
Thanks.